Toyota Motor Corporation is no doubt the largest motor vehicle manufacturer on the planet by sheer sales, with a jaw-dropping 11.2 million units sold in just 2023. Now, you're probably wondering, these millions of cars are all being made and shipped from Japan? Actually, to meet its global market demands, Toyota has not one, but 67 factories, including 36 vehicle production plants and 22 component production plants spread across the world. The biggest one, believe it or not, is in Georgetown, Kentucky. So in this video, we'll be taking a look inside Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky, Toyota's mega factory. Welcome back on Factory Frontiers on YouTube. Let's start with a little history. While Toyota Motor Corporation has been actively selling its cars in the United States market from as far back as 1957, it wasn't until 1986, 50 years after the first ever Toyota model was launched, that the company announced that it would be building its first fully owned manufacturing plant in the country. Or at least it planned to, as Mitch McConnell, a senior senator in Kentucky, leaked the news 4 days to the official announcement. By this time, Toyota's sales in the US had grown tremendously, but shipping costs and importation tariffs meant that they couldn't compete on the same level with local car manufacturers. To tackle this problem, the company had, a few years earlier, entered into a partnership with GM Motors to assemble cars in the US. Finally, Toyota felt it was ready to dive into the US manufacturing world on its own. The new factory would be grander than anything Toyota had built before, far eclipsing all other factories in its hometown, Toyota City in Aichi, Japan. Georgetown in central Kentucky, a city best known for its horses, was chosen as the perfect site for the plant. Fun fact, the same year construction for the megafactory started, Toyota became the first import automaker to sell more than 1 million vehicles in America in a single year. Fast forward to 2024, and Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky, a subsidiary of Toyota Motor North America, which is in itself a subsidiary of Toyota Motor Corporation of Japan, is still the largest Toyota plant on the planet, producing an average of 550,000 vehicles as well as 600,000 engines every year. So how exactly was this Toyota megafactory built? Right from the get-go, the factory was set to be far from ordinary in size. After all, Toyota was making a mainstream entry into the US manufacturing market, a market that already had established competitors. Construction of Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky, which is also simply known as TMMK, officially began with a groundbreaking ceremony in May of 1986. The original facility was to be 3.8 million square feet, and it would not come cheap. The budget was $800 million, and a total of 6 American general contractors were given the job. The construction itself didn't take long, and just 2 years later, the facility produced its flagship car, the Camry. This early model is actually on display in the visitor lobby at the facility. Something else that's also on display, the Toyota Production System. Thanks to this system, Toyota is credited with introducing lean production, a much more efficient manufacturing process to the world. We'll talk more about this later in the video. Now, from the mid-80s to the early 90s, Toyota's local vehicle production in Kentucky grew steadily. But then the 1990s came with something unexpected. The demand for cars grew as the car culture became more mainstream. Fearing that supply would soon be insufficient to meet the rising demand, the Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky was expanded. This was soon followed by the production of the Avalon, a model derived from the Camry in 1994. To date, the facility has seen 3 major expansions and now spans more than double its original size. The current factory includes 3 automobile assembly lines, an engine shop, as well as an on-site plastics shop. Now, for the question that is probably on your mind, how big is the factory? The Georgetown plant, the biggest in Toyota's production network, spans a whopping 8.1 million square feet and sits on 1,300 acres of land. Now, it's not just the plant that's big. The workforce, too, is beyond that of any other Toyota factory. According to the latest data, more than 9,900 employees work in the facility, and the $800 million initial building cost is just a fraction of what the facility is worth now. As of early 2024, Toyota has invested almost $10 billion in the factory, including a $1.3 billion investment in infrastructure for building electric SUVs and battery cells for other electric vehicles. With Toyota setting its eyes on penetrating the electric vehicle market, the Kentucky factory is poised to be the key supplier for the company's first US manufactured EVs. Now, Toyota's transition to EVs is no doubt a recent development, but the company has been in the US for decades. So what exactly does it make? The main reason behind setting up a manufacturing plant in America was to make products for the American market locally. For this reason, Toyota doesn't assemble its entire array of vehicles in Georgetown, just models that are popular in the market. The most popular of which are the company's flagship, the Camry, and of course, RAV4s. Fun fact, did you know that the RAV4 was the best-selling SUV of 2023 with 434,943 units sold, while the Camry was the best-selling sedan with 290,649 units sold. Aside from these two bestsellers, the factory also assembles Camry hybrids, Lexus ESs, Avalons, and Avalon hybrids. Talking about the 2015 introduction of Lexus ES production in the US, Akio Toyoda, president of Toyota Motor Corporation, noted Lexus was founded in the United States, so it's only fitting that we are bringing the production of luxury sedans for our US customers back to where the brand was born. It is also fitting that we chose Kentucky because it was Toyota's first standalone plant in America, so in a way for manufacturing, Kentucky is Toyota's home. It also has some of the most experienced Toyota team members in the world. Aside from assembling cars, the plant also produces thousands of engines for various Toyota models every year. Since its launch, more than 11 million vehicles have rolled off the plant's production line. Aside from these, the facility is also set to be a pioneer in assembling hydrogen fuel cell modules for heavy-duty commercial trucks. As the first Toyota factory in the US, how did TMMK become so successful? To understand just how Toyota was able to penetrate the US market and actually set up a successful mega factory, we have to go back to how it produces its cars in Georgetown. Now, the mega factory follows what you would call typical car manufacturing steps. It all starts with stamping, where large steel sheets are fed into a stamping press to create the desired body panels for the car in production. Once that is done, the panels move to welding, where they are welded together to now make the vehicle's shell. Step 3 is painting. The shell is painted to achieve the desired color and give it a layer of protection. After this, the assembly process begins. The internal components such as the engine and brakes are installed, and then the bumpers and tires. This is followed by the windshield, rear glass, and seats. Finally, the doors come last. But there's something that makes the process unique. You see, the factory uses something called the Toyota Production System, or simply TPS. In the most basic sense, TPS is a manufacturing philosophy whose purpose is to produce the best quality products in the shortest time while keeping costs and waste low. That's why it's often referred to as lean system. TPS is made up of two core principles. The first is just-in-time, which means that each process makes just what is needed for the next stage of production, when it's needed and in the quantity that is needed. And to ensure this system works, the production line is always stocked with all the right parts, and new stock of all parts and subparts is delivered at the right time and in the exact quantity as parts are used in the production. This way, production flows smoothly and continuously, and the process is not only flawless, but the quality of all parts is also consistent. The other is Jidoka, which translates to automation with a human touch. Basically, this means that when something goes wrong within the production process, the equipment immediately stops until the issue is looked at and resolved. So if say something was to go wrong midway, the vehicles under production don't make it into the market knowingly or unknowingly. Other principles associated with TPS include Kaizen, which loosely translates to continuous improvement, Mira, which is about eliminating unevenness or irregularities in the production process, and Genshi Genbutsu, which means that to solve a problem, you must see it for yourself. These unique quality control standards combined with the use of high-quality materials and advanced engineering are the reason Toyota cars are deemed so reliable, and why models like the Camry and RAV4 are such popular options in the US market. Even during the pandemic, when the auto industry grappled with serious shortages of semiconductor chips, Toyota didn't struggle as much as its competitors, and many speculated that the company had abandoned its lean production system. But Chris Nielsen, the executive vice president of Toyota North America, dispelled this belief by saying, in reality, TPS is really what allowed us to do as well as we did. That said, for such a large plant, there is, of course, the question of its impact on the environment. It's no secret that the car manufacturing industry leaves behind a significant carbon footprint. In fact, a Greenpeace report estimates that top automakers produce a whopping 74 million tons of carbon dioxide, CO2, every year. The industry as a whole accounts for 8% of the global anthropogenic emissions. Just to grasp what this means, a petrol or diesel car releases around 5.6 tons of CO2 on average during its production, with over 4 tons of that being released during the production of the steel body. body. While it's not yet possible for car manufacturers to bring their environmental impact down to zero, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky has implemented a couple of things to reduce their impact. For one, the plant is a zero-waste facility. This basically means that everything that comes out of the production process as waste is recycled or reused instead of going into landfills. As one of 10 Toyota plants in the US that has achieved zero landfill waste, the factory recycles over 100,000 tons of waste annually. And whatever can't be used or recycled is incinerated to produce energy, which is then used to run the factory. As for water conservation, the facility has taken measures to reduce its consumption by removing a total of 16 pumps that would typically be used for cleaning on weekends. Instead, it's opted for small water tanks that are emptied and refilled every weekend. This measure alone has seen the factory save about 1.2 million gallons of water annually. Not to forget, TMMK does seem to care for the local community as it does for the environment. As it turns out, the facility turns some of its waste into fertilizer and uses it to produce food in a garden that's within the facility's grounds. This garden produces over half a ton of fresh food, which the factory donates to food banks within Georgetown. Additional measures include air filters to keep air emissions low, the use of returnable packaging, the installation of carbon absorbers, and many more. We've seen Toyota achieve unimaginable growth over the years, from its humble beginnings as a textile business 100 years ago to becoming the largest auto manufacturer in the world. Today, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky is the biggest Toyota factory in the world, but 10, 20, 50, or 100 years from now, the company might build an even bigger, more mind-blowing factory. What do you think?